Veterans Day will be on Veterans Day, which is this Friday, November 11th at 10:45 a.m. at the Memorial Plaza on Main Street. Next is the Peter Oley Turkey Trot, which will be on Sunday, November 20th, 2 p.m. at Dow's Lane. You can sign up early, I believe online, online only registration, which is register.capturepoint.com, Village of Irvington. You can also just find it on the website. We would like to schedule a public hearing to consider a local law amending the village code with respect to senior citizen tax exemption for Monday, November 21st, 2022 at 7 p.m. I'll make the motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then we also have checks over 25,000. There were one this time. Yep. It was to Illuminated Integration LLC for the theater audio consoles, and that was out of capital fund. It was $40,599. I guess the only other thing I'll add is that tomorrow is election day, as I'm sure you're seeing if you've turned on any kind of media. If you don't know where you're voting, you can actually go online to this county site, and you just put in your address, and it'll tell you exactly where to go. There's been some confusion, but hopefully there won't be any confusion tomorrow. What else? Another announcement.
We have that link posted on the village website also, just so.
We sent out emails about it, so
Yep.
you can find it on the village website or the county website.
Yep.
Do we also have?
Full moon eclipse tonight.
Yeah, it's like 3 a.m.
Well, it starts, but the peak totality is going to be between like 5:15 and 6:30.
Oh, okay, that's pretty good. Give a shot at that.
Sorry.
Is it a lunar eclipse?
Lunar.
So you can, what, I'm not good at this stuff, so if you look.
Lunar eclipse means the moon is eclipsed.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so if you look at the right time, it'll be a reddish hue over the.
And in totality, it will be kind of a really rich red. And it's called the Beaver Blood Moon. I guess this month is Beaver Month for some Native Americans.
I like it.
I would just add that yesterday was the Irvington Historical Society Gala, which was a big success. And, my one comment was, I've lived here for over 35 years, which is too long to know all the new people in town, but not long enough to know a lot of the people that were being honored yesterday. There were people there. There was a guy whose grandfather built all the stone walls
Yeah,
in
Bill
the
Murphy.
village.
Really?
And his father was mayor and postmaster. So he's been around forever. He's an interesting guy. He's done a lot. He did a lot of research too when we were doing the war monuments to get the World War II guys that were excluded and things like that. He's unbelievable. If you ever have a few hours, he'll tell you stories. But
There's an interesting upcoming lecture on Frederick Law Olmsted coming up at the Historical Society. I don't know if anyone's going to mention it, but if you go to their website, he's well known for being the designer of Central Park, but a lot of the states up here were influenced by his design aesthetic, like Lyndhurst. So
Right.
It should be a very interesting lecture.
yeah, and I guess one more announcement, more of a thank you. Halloween was another great success. Thanks for the Irvington Police Department, and as well as on that day, all the Halloween bands, including Mitch's band. I think you guys kicked things off. Right?
We did.
So I think there were 8 bands this year, or 9.
I think there were
8.
Right.
But anyway, it was great. It was a great day. It was great seeing the police out and so many, families, and it was packed. It was really a great day. And then, the whole month leading up to it, really, the rec department had so many great events, including the day before was the Halloween parade, which was, unbelievably well attended. I actually had to go to another event and I had to drive through right before the start, so I saw all the people lined up. It was actually the RZ Park Homeowners Association meeting was at the same time, so I couldn't do both. But the hayride, and as well as the window painting. So the rec department, this is always a busy time of year, but they did a great job, and it was nice to see the window painting back after many years. And I think it was just a really fun season as we kind of ramp up to the holidays, and we have Veterans Day, and then the turkey trot as well. And then the rec department every year organizes I don't know how many families they feed on Thanksgiving. Less fortunate families in town. So I think you can still sign up for that if you want to donate money or time that day. So lot coming up and a lot right behind us as well. So I will go from that and move on to correspondence. So we have, I guess, 4 pieces of correspondence. First is from Elizabeth and Michael Feinstein. It's about the Station Road winter weather concerns. With winter weather soon upon us, we really need your help. Easy to mistake Station Road during its downtime periods for tranquil country lane, particularly in the warmer months. Only as Irvington's commuter population heads off to work with children leave for various schools, and serious joggers, fitness enthusiasts, steady procession of walk-bound baby carriages share their sidewalk. It talks about how important it is as a central artery. In light of this, why is the winter maintenance of Station Road's critical sidewalk left to a handful of residents who are now responsible for the snow and ice-free safety of so many of their village neighbors? We've been told by the town's officials the new stretch of sidewalk installed on the south side of Station Road is underwritten by a grant designed to make life safer for Irvington school children and pedestrians. Whereas the continuing concern for their safety during winter's critical high-use periods where residents alone are responsible for shoveling and reshoveling and assaulting and resalting the sidewalk slick surfaces in an attempt to make the sidewalk safe. As a retired couple with significant health issues, this places a particular burden on us. Operating under the supervision of the village maintenance department, formerly responsible for the maintenance of Station Road sidewalks early in the new century, residents have been given clear-cut directives indicating the window for timely shoveling and salting, but the 12-hour window fails to attend to the true scheduling needs of the village pedestrians. It opens up both residents and villages to lawsuits for questionable planning. Anticipating the coming problems, we have canvassed local commercial snow removal services, but none of them are prepared to take on responsibility in a timely manner, as is needed here, and we'd be grateful for any help, contacts, or resources you have. Dumping of Irvington's safety and logistical concerns into a handful of citizens seems like an inadequate, impractical, and unsafe solution, and surprisingly unfair for such a thoughtful and well-prepared community. Hope you can find some good news for us, and so before the snow begins to fall, Liz and Michael Feinstein on 70 Station Road. I would say this is a common concern we get every year before Thanksgiving. A little bit of the history on it is now it's, I think it was 2009, 2010.
Yeah, yep.
We were looking at, it was right after the great financial crisis. We looked at kind of all village services and tried to find things that were kind of outliers. And I wasn't mayor then, but I was on the board. I guess I'm the only one left. And the biggest thing by far was maintenance of sidewalks. And that means not maintenance as in making sure they're not cracks, but removing leaves and removing snow. We were one of only 2 municipalities of, I think, 38-9 or whatever it is in Westchester that actually still did it. And the other one was, I think, Bedford.
At the time, yeah.
At the time. And we looked at the cost and it didn't seem like much. We say, you go out maybe 5, 6, 10, 15 times. How bad can it be? But the costs and mostly manpower, there was also some associated equipment costs. But looking now over the last decade or so, kind of removing this one standout service that we provided that almost no one else did, we've saved literally millions of dollars. And the way that, again, it doesn't sound like it would be something that costs a lot of money, but it's just the amount of manpower that's needed. And you can't just hire them just for that short season. So you end up keeping additional people on, and then hiring obviously part-time workers for the actual events, as well as equipment. And there are some, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment that we haven't replaced, as well as I'd say about a dozen DPW workers that we haven't replaced over the years, maybe 8.
Yeah, it's 8 or 10. Yeah.
But it's not an insignificant number. So I think the way we looked at it was, if literally every other municipality can figure out a way to do it, why is Irvington different or special? Although we always say we're different and special, there's certain things we're not. So I think, it's been something we've struggled with. I think we didn't want to be too heavy-handed in the first couple of years enforcing it. And we had that probably the biggest problem on Main Street, where, it is a low Station Road. It has busy sidewalks. Main Street obviously has the busiest sidewalks, parts of Broadway as well. So the first couple of years we were fairly lax in kind of enforcing the issue. We've been less so the last few years, and I think we've had better compliance. We found the biggest problem on Main Street are the landlords that live in Florida and they haven't been here in 20 years and don't really care. So without kind of financially impacting them, they just didn't care. So this is something that I understand it's a hardship on some people that have to worry about taking care of the sidewalks, but I just think it's not an uncommon ask, unfortunately. But that said, we're willing to try to help. I know Greenberg is trying to have their program called Snow Angels, I believe, where they try to line up particularly seniors, but I guess anybody with kind of younger members of the community that can help out. I know we talked about doing community service with the high school again. I feel like we've almost not stopped looking to do that, but I don't think we've had any, this hasn't come up as much recently because it's been so long now that it's been a situation, but obviously the Station Road sidewalk was kind of recently completed. But those are kind of my feelings on this.
Can the senior center kind of organize something?
I think I think in the past they have. I don't know if it's come up in the last few years, but I can talk to Joe.
Because it seems strikes me that Joe, a guy who probably wants to organize something.
Yeah, no, you're right. He's the kind of guy that figures out a way to do things. And I always hoped that there kind of be like a organized neighborhood, like Spiro Park would say, hey, we're gonna get those guys landscaping to do our sidewalks, and it's cost everyone $20 for the season. It's probably way low for an estimate, but I always thought those types of things would eventually happen. But I think enough people just do it themselves that it hasn't. So it's a dilemma, and that there's people that have I think you might even have sidewalk that's like not even close to your house, but it's on Harriman. I know there's people on Harriman that they don't really abut Harriman, but they have to clean the Harriman sidewalk. And there's always these small these exceptions.
It's fairly heavily trafficked.
Yeah.
School kids too. So.
Yeah. It's difficult though. I don't think there's a really easy answer. I think obviously we did it for so long that people got used to it. So.
Now, just to add, I'd be curious, since we are talking about other communities as well, if there's any way or anyone else who sort of thought outside the box that might be able to help either seniors who are having difficulty with this, and or people who are away and just aren't around when the snow happens.
Yep.
And I know it can be difficult. I know, I happen to have spoken to Michael and Liz. I think we had a couple of emails back and forth as well with the board. And they're seniors and they're infirm and they made a lot of calls and a lot of efforts, and they feel a responsibility to fulfill their responsibility to the village and to the law, of the village. And I'm just wondering if there's any thoughts of a way of thinking outside the box and maybe having people pre-register who know that they're willing to commit to having someone, maybe, affiliated with the village or not, to be willing to come in a timely way to do sidewalks. It seems difficult to find, commercial people who are willing to come and do it on a timely basis. So, anyway, just a thought.
Yeah, I think we can try to. I personally haven't looked into any solutions in several years, so I'd be happy to kind of see what we can figure out again.
Mm-hmm.
Next up is Nikki Coddington. The Green Policy Task Force suggests that the Board of Trustees consider passing a resolution in support of the New York State Clean Air, Clean Water, and Clean Jobs Bond Act of 2022. Board of Trustees' next regular meeting is today. The day before Election Day, when Prop 1 for the bond will be on the reverse side of the ballot. Another good reminder to flip your ballot over tomorrow if you haven't voted already. In addition to the county legislature itself, a number of Westchester municipalities have passed resolutions so far, including, for example, Hastings, Greenberg, Croton, Mamaroneck, Town of Bedford, Town of Bryan, both the village and town of Ossining, as well as others in the works. I would say just refer down to agenda item 10 that we've decided to take up Nikki and the Green Policy Task Force request and vote to pass that today.
And since it is the eve of Election Day, we did put out some information about this. I know the board, had indicated their willingness to pass this resolution. So in advance of that, we put information out, and I know the mayor also wrote about it in his column last week. So people know about it.
Yep. But if you want to do some research, I think even this letter had a link to kind of basic information on it, fact sheet, but it's on the back of your ballot. I know sometimes people forget to flip them over.
We did send that reminder out as well.
Yeah.
Flip the ballot over.
Then next up is Peter Bernstein and Sarah Cox. Dear trustees, we're unable to attend the upcoming board meeting, but want to applaud and support the step the village is taking to assist homeowners taking advantage of the accessory dwelling unit policy. Housing costs for tenants and homeowners in Irvington just keep climbing. Higher rents, the impact of the Greenberg tax reassessment, and the prices of village homes are making living in Irvington out of reach for too many current and prospective residents. The ADU approach can help both homeowner and prospective residents stay live in our village. We also wish to express our disappointment with the decision by Wilder Balter to withdraw from the proposed North Broadway affordable housing project. We hope that the village will look into approaches that would result in a similar project in the site. The scale of the project is important to developers given the working of the tax credits they use to finance the project. Perhaps village, county, or state subsidies, in addition to the tax credits, could be allocated to help finance a similar project. Thank you for all your attempts to help address our housing crisis. Peter Bernstein and Sarah Cox from Connet Street. And then, in a related topic, from WBP Development LLC, addressed to the village administrator. WBP Development has chosen not to pursue our application for a multifamily affordable development at 76 North Broadway, a site where we were the contract vendee for and was most recently before the planning board in May 2022 for the determination of site capacity. We made a decision after nearly a year of research and due diligence concerning the site, as well as the community at large. Our view is that the vague language in the zoning regarding traffic impacts created unworkable risk of success. Given the foregoing and given the North Broadway's heavily trafficked area that can nonetheless support new multifamily housing, we believe the village should do its own traffic study on the build out of the rezoned area and then get updated zoning law to reflect the finding of that traffic study so that the village can then get multifamily affordable housing successfully approved and built. Sincerely, James B. Weldon, WBP Development LLC. That's, I think I speak for the board when I say we're all disappointed in hearing that project is not moving forward. I think, we've discussed as a board some of the traffic stuff. I think one of the glaring things is that there's a current traffic situation, regardless of any additional development or not, that probably should be studied and see if we can mitigate it as it is, regardless of any future development. But that's a discussion, I guess, for another day.
Yeah, I would just comment that it's very disappointing that this developer, as they said, could spend a year studying this project and not read the zoning and not see what the wording was. I mean, it's not like it changed. It's not like there was anything different, and it took them a year to come and to have that conclusion when the zoning was there all along, and they came to us and said that they could build as of right and that they weren't going to need any changes to do their project. So I just find it disturbing. I find this letter self-serving.
Fair enough.
I do think, though, that we should be doing a traffic study of current conditions and see, they pointed their finger at one specific aspect of in conversations. So I think it's important that maybe we look at it and see, maybe there is something in the wording that is problematic and could be clarified. But, this makes a lot of sense. If this is the one hiccup, then it really is just another step on the path to try to get the affordable housing done in that area. I mean, I don't see the point of delaying. I think we should move fairly quickly on figuring out if there is a, soluble traffic
Yeah, I
condition.
I disagree, I guess, but
You disagree?
no, I don't think I disagree, but because again, whether or not there be another builder or not, I think we all agree that traffic is tough. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for it, the lack of people taking school buses and walking to school, all those types of things to, who knows what else, timing of lights, we don't know what the issues really are. We have any traffic engineers on the board, so perhaps we need to get one.
There may not be traffic engineers, but I'd like to point out that when WPB made their first presentation to us, several of us pointed out traffic issues, both car and pedestrian. So this was not a new issue for them. We told them that's something they were going to address.
It was literally the first time.
Yeah, I mean, I would say though that living on Riverview Road, there is clearly a traffic issue that needs to be addressed, and I don't think it's when we were talking about condemning Strawberry Lane, I think even the safety issues, right, of coming off of Strawberry Lane and turning onto Broadway, I think is an issue. So I am in favor sort of moving forward with a traffic study, because I do think a goal of this board is to try to facilitate affordable housing, and we're not going to be able to do that with, that current situation.
I mean, it's hard enough to see out of Riverview. I can't imagine trying to make the left out of Strawberry Lane.
Oh, yeah.
You can't see, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about that maybe at the next work session.
Yeah, I think that's likely.
Next up, public comments. Anybody has a comment? Otherwise, I'll move on to the consent agenda. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Otherwise, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. If I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is support for an application by the Housing Action Committee for funding to encourage accessory dwelling units.
Okay, so as you saw from the agenda, we've actually been invited to participate in a grant submission with the Housing Action Council. The grant specifically is to make money available to private homeowners to allow them and encourage them to make the improvements necessary to create accessory dwelling units. This is a goal of the board, as you remember from this past year's priorities. We enacted 2 pieces of legislation to try to allow this. One is relates to accessory dwelling units, kind of more formal dwelling units, which have pretty stringent building code requirements, not village code requirements, but state code requirements. And we also passed a less stringent in-law suite, I guess we called it, during that process. But this money here would encourage the creation of the accessory dwelling unit. So Rose Noonan is here from the Housing Action Council. It would involve a resolution of support, which you have in your packet, as well as the execution of a memorandum of understanding with Housing Action Council to be part of the grant if it were to be successful. So Rose, if you have any other background on it, if you've had any questions, of course, for Rose.
Hi, good evening. I am Rose Noonan. I'm the Executive Director of Housing Action Council. I'm here representing the council as well as the Habitat for Humanity, who part of this application. But it was about 6 weeks or so ago, we surprisingly received a notice of fund availability from New York State that there would be $20 million available immediately to be used to preserve and create accessory apartments throughout the state. The overall program the overall funding will be $85 million, but they're going to start out the first year with $20 million. We initially thought that we would apply on a county-wide basis, but as we had discussions with the staff of the state, they really wanted to see the applications come in with partners who were in control of their accessory apartment ordinances, and they also wanted it focused in geographic areas of our choosing. So we thought about it. We know there's 17 accessory apartment ordinances throughout Westchester, and with some differences. And we also thought about how many could you do in a year or two. And we know accessory apartments take a while to get through. So we came up with the idea of asking this village as well as Hastings and Dobbs Ferry to participate in a single application to New York State with us, and also to go another application, separate application for the town of Bedford. The town of Bedford and Hastings have agreed so far, and it's on Dobbs' agenda tonight also. It is using your existing ordinance. It is, there have been some who have questioned me, does it require a change in ordinance in order to apply? And it doesn't at all. We are asking you that, assuming we are funded, that you from time to time have yourselves or your staff meet with us just to discuss how it's working, what additional challenges, if any there are, to the uses of accessory apartments, and be in somewhat of a learning mode to see how others are working in their community. The program would be available to homeowners whose incomes are under 100% of the Westchester County median. In the census data that I've looked at for this village, as well as the other villages, it's about 20% of the population would qualify if they were interested in pursuing this. The grant would provide up to about $90,000 to cover the scope of work that would be involved in creating an accessory apartment. The services that would be provided would be helping the village and ourselves with outreach to let your homeowners know of this opportunity. Habitat would be available to prepare scopes of work and oversee the construction of the accessory apartments. And we'd also be available to assist applicants through your permitting process. We understand that applications are due the 10th, the 10th. So we're on a short time frame here. We were informed that they expect to make decisions by the end of the year. So funding, if approved, would be available in 2023. Your responsibilities as we're requesting them is to agree to have yourselves identified as a partner in this grant application through a memorandum of understanding. Housing Action Council and Habitat would be the lead applicant. Your participation would be agreeing to assist in outreach to the community, to help us understand your permitting process, and to participate in those meetings about accessory apartments through the 2-year period.
I mean, a lot of things, I think sometimes we think, something like accessory apartments, how much of an impact can it have? But, if we had 3 to 5 of these, we'd have 20% more affordable units in our village, so it's, I remember, ironically, Larry and I were talking about this last week, that when we first passed this law, we were worried we'd have too many, so we capped it at 50 to make sure we weren't overrunning neighborhoods, and I think we've had 3 as well.
Only a handful.
I thought that's why when I heard about this, it sounded super exciting, because I do think cost is probably a large factor in people, thinking about moving forward with something like this. So I think hopefully we get the grant, and then we can start marketing it and letting people know, because I think this would be a great way to let people stay in their homes longer and things like that. So I think it's a very underutilized law that we had passed. I guess now, was it 5 years ago?
It's
More than that.
yeah.
No, it's longer than that.
Yeah.
So I
It's
had
before
one
Janice got on the board.
Oh, really?
Because Janice was
Janice was still on the housing.
on the house.
She was on the housing committee, that's right.
I think it was in 2016. I had to look this information up for the application.
So 6 years ago.
Thank you.
So I had
And
a
again,
point-
as we know, we have a very active housing committee that I'm sure, and I know from their communications, and Sue's here, would be interested in helping out. And maybe there's some people that are tuning in who want to speak to that as well.
It was 2016.
Yes, I had a point I was trying to clarify, because I'm a little confused, because the grant is not just to offer technical services in terms of getting through the planning process and stuff, but is there also part of the grant that's actual monies for the construction? The way I read it, it was kind of one place that seemed to say that, and another place it wasn't clear.
Yeah.
So,
The bulk of the money would be actually used to cover the construction of the
right, now, is
accessory
that
apartment.
those grants or those loans?
Those are grants.
Oh,
It's, and we've looked at what the cost in this area is of creating accessory apartments, and we do think it will be averaging about $90,000 per unit. So that's what we are
that's
putting-
construction stuff.
construction. Now, and also you'll need the licensed professionals to prepare plans, so forth. So it would include the cost of those services. There's also what's called a program delivery cost. That would, the marketing of the program, the administration of the state grant would be covered through that. But that's over and above the bulk of the money that would be for construction and the design services associated with it.
Right, okay.
And not every application or not every project would be a planning board project necessarily. I mean, maybe if there's an addition to a house, certainly, but if you're just renovating existing space, right, that's not a, I mean, maybe there's a special permit project. I'm talking about true planning process where you'd have a large number
But
of
you might
professionals.
still have
Yeah, you might really,
contract drawings, for.
yeah, you might really just be talking about drawings, right?
Yeah.
I think you do need a special permit by the planning board.
Right.
Not for the in-law apartment.
Right.
You do need it for the.
But anyway, I do think that, up to $90,000 would help people that were on the fence about this for sure.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Whereas the Village of Irvington encourages the improvement and creation of accessory apartments, and whereas a priority in the Village of Irvington is to publicize the regulations and procedure for applying for conversion to in-law suites and accessory apartments, and whereas a program may be available that provides eligible homeowners with financial assistance and technical support to improve and create accessory apartments in the Village of Irvington, and whereas the Village of Irvington has concluded that it would be in the interest of the Village of Irvington to participate therein, now therefore be it resolved. The village enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Housing Action Council and Habitat for Humanity of New York City and Westchester to support their proposal to New York State for funding the creation of and improvement of accessory apartments in the Village of Irvington, and to assist them in advising eligible homeowners of this funding and technical assistance through Housing Action Council and Habitat for Humanity. And be it further resolved that the village administrator be and hereby is authorized to execute such memorandum of understanding on behalf of the Village of Irvington, subject to the final approval of the village attorney. I'll make the motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm excited about that, and thank you for coming tonight. We
Thank you.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you, Rose.
Now you can go home and finish the application, right? In a couple days.
Thank you, Sue.
Thanks, Sue. Next is approval of consultant agreement with Tejan Vengus Consulting Engineers.
Tejan Venegas.
Okay, not even close.
Yeah, so this is a, relatively small engineering contract. We've been struggling with the replacement and upgrade of the heating and air conditioning system at the senior center. We believe we've settled on a solution which does involve the installation of heat pumps. We do need to have the plan engineered, which is where Tejan Venegas comes in. They're going to create the plans that we need to go out to bid to get that project done. And as you probably would guess, we do have heat in the building, but the air conditioning we were on temporary air conditioning for the entire summer. So this project is being timed so we get it done over the winter and in time for the cooling season next year. So, and you have money approved for the larger project to get it done. So in your capital budget. That's the background.
Any questions? Otherwise, resolved to approve the consulting agreement with Tejan and Vengus Consulting Engineers PLLC for consulting services relating to the senior center HVAC project for an amount not to exceed $32,000. Authorize the village administrator to execute said agreement. I'll make the motion if I can have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next up is approval of an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Greenberg regarding the East Irvington Fire Protection District for 2021 and 2022. Anything new here, Larry?
Well,
Or different?
Yeah, so this, just as background, this is an agreement that the village has had for many years with the town of Greenberg. It requires the village fire department to cover the area of East Irvington that is in the unincorporated town of Greenberg. It's an area that roughly that surrounds Texter Road, if you want to look at that up till about Route 87. That area has been covered by the fire department for many years. There's an agreement, and the way New York state law works, that if a volunteer department like Irvington's covers an area like this, there's a contract between the town and the village. And then there's a provision that the village that's receiving the money from the town to help offset the various costs of running a fire department, that 35% of that is then paid to the fire company, which is the volunteer organization behind the fire department. Got that? Sorry, it's complicated, but that's how it works. So essentially, The village keeps 65%, the fire company itself keeps 35%, and Greenberg has its East Irvington covered by the Irvington Volunteer Fire Department. So we execute, and for many years, we've had a similar agreement with Greenberg. This year, or for 21 and 22, there's been a couple of subtleties that were changed in the agreement. There's what I think is helpful to understand is that Greenberg has several of these agreements with other communities. They have, I think, 5 or 6 other fire districts that are covered in this manner with other villages. And so there was an effort to try to streamline some of that. And so that the agreements took a lot longer this year to negotiate than in past years. But we got to the final answer. It's a similar amount that we're being paid, correctly justified in the agreement. And then the fire company will be paid, their share when Irvington's paid. So that's what all these agreements are about. It covers calendar year 21 and calendar year 22. So we'll be pretty soon negotiating 23. So
I had 2 questions. One was, so why are we doing this backwards? Is it because Greenberg didn't have it on their radar in time?
no, yeah, it was on their radar. There were a lot of questions, not a lot, there were questions raised about the consistency in the way the agreements were structured between all of its other fire districts that it funds. And so that process, as you can imagine, took a lot of back and forth between the other districts in Greenberg. I mean, we have nothing to do with the other districts, so we're just an outsider. So we had to wait and see how things settled out, and then we negotiated, and then, it all eventually balanced out, and we have, I think, very similar agreements amongst all the districts, which is what Greenberg was shooting for. So that process took a long time, and it's not the first time we've been out this long, by the way. I mean,
We've been out as much as almost 5 years.
it wasn't 5, 3, I think, for sure, but yeah.
I remember when I was in the fire department, it was always like, let's bother the across the street kind of thing.
Yeah, but I've been keeping the chief
no,
up to
it's
date.
definitely been,
Yeah.
I'd say the last 10 years. It's been.
And the other question I had is that I don't in a million years think this would be a problem, but just kind of more as a process thing. Does the fire department want to do this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, no, they're actually a party to the agreement, so if they didn't want to,
Then
they wouldn't sign it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
And I think that's part of the whole way the whole thing works is the way I think it's put into place. We can't just tell Tarrytown now that, hey, you know what, our guys will cover you over there without, them
Right.
being involved in it. And everything. So,
Yeah, and that type of thing can happen, by the way. You can, in negotiations with the town could seek a different department to cover the area of East Irvington. We're not entitled to that area, just like Tarrytown's not entitled to whatever area they cover, So it's a negotiation, simple as that, and longstanding agreements, and I think we worked it out, pretty favorably.
All right. Whereas the Village of Irvington and Town of Greenberg have reached agreement on the provision of fire protection services for the East Irvington Fire Protection District for the periods January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021, and January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022. And whereas the payment due from the Town of Greenberg under said agreement for 2021 is $106,319, and for 2022 is $110,433. Now therefore be it resolved to authorize the mayor to execute an intermunicipal agreement with the Town of Greenberg regarding the East Irvington Fire Protection District, subject to the final review by the village attorney, and further resolved to authorize the clerk treasurer upon receipt of payment from the Town of Greenberg to make payment of $37,212 for 2021 and $38,652 for 2022 to the Irvington Fire Company in accordance with the terms and conditions of the intermunicipal agreement. I'll make the motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It is a long contract.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, it took all
I
that.
was looking through, I was like, wow.
Yeah, it was a big packet.
I'm curious how much of it in our contract has actually changed, so was ours the best model that everybody else had to follow?
The numbers didn't end up changing that much. They were just arrived at differently.
Mhm.
So that's what the net result was, though it had the potential to change significantly. So that's why, I didn't rush through it because, we could have been lowballed on it, essentially.
Next up is support of the Clean Water, Clean Air, Green Jobs Environmental Bond Act of 2022. Obviously, we read most of Dickey's letter. I think it kind of stands on its own. I'm not going to read the entire thing, just the last whereas, but again, this is more important than our resolution is for people to turn their ballots over tomorrow, and if you're so inclined, vote yes. Prop one, so. Anyone else have anything, or just gonna read the bottom? Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Irvington Board of Trustees supports passage of the Clean Water, Clean Air, Green Jobs Environmental Bond Act of 2022. I'll make the motion if I can have a second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then we have authorization to approve change order number 1 for the Madison Park Stage project.
Okay, relatively minor change order, although I guess any amount is important, but this is a change order. As you know, you did enter into an agreement with McLaren Engineering to be working on the design of the stage in Matheson Park. One of the things that came out of their work so far is that there's a strong likelihood that the electrical service into the park is not adequate to provide enough power for the stage. So it will require the services of an electrical engineer to design an upgrade to the electrical system. And that those extra services are $6,500.
Was the electrical service upgraded when the Matheson Park renovation was done?
No.
But they have concerts there every summer. How do they get power for that?
Generators.
No, there's power, there's just not enough power. And for the large event like Rocktoberfest, it's a generator.
Oh, they rent an area.
Yeah. But on a regular basis, the stage wouldn't be usable.
So that's, so it's additional for design services, and then we should anticipate additional for the actual
Right. I mean,
electrical.
as we've done with our big capital projects, we're going to be getting to a cost estimate to see what this is. And this will need to be part of it.
But we haven't approved that yet.
No, you haven't approved that part of it yet. I mean, it's in the capital budget, it's been earmarked, but it hasn't been approved yet. So this is just the design part.
Resolve to approve change order number 1 with McLaren Engineering Group in the total amount of $6,500 for the Madison Park Stage project, and authorize the village administrator to execute said change order. I'll make the motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up, reports of board, standing committees, and officers. Before we get to the trustee liaison reports, I'm actually not going to be here on the 20th. I'm going to be out of the country. So when I was thinking about that today, and was going to tell Larry and all of you, I realized that this is my last regular meeting with Mark. And even before Mark was on the board, he was an active participant from the other side of the dais. I just wanted to thank Mark for all his thoughtful comments over the years. I have to admit, I was a little nervous. You were much more combative on the other side of the dais, and I remember thinking, oh boy, here we go. It's going to be interesting to have Mark on this side, and I quickly realized that you were thoughtful, and you really were out for the best of the village, and you definitely brought a unique set of expertise and skills, not only the environmental stuff, but just your attention to detail. And it's just obviously you really cared for the village, and we're always looking out for, the taxpayers as well as the village and as well as the environment. And your expertise on a lot of building stuff was really invaluable over these years. So big shoes to fill when you decide to step down, and we obviously wish you the best, or I wish you the best. Everyone else can do this in a couple of weeks, but
I get to get buried twice. Huh?
yeah, exactly right. But
Thanks, Brian.
yeah, I didn't want to miss out on my opportunity to thank you for all
Yeah,
the years
appreciate that.
that you've been on the board, and it's been a pleasure to work with you for the most part. So and we've had some good banter too. So I'll miss the laughs and the drawings. And everyone, I think we should take a couple drawings and hang them upstairs for a while.
Right. You can donate them.
They'll be valuable someday.
And at some point, we'll be able to sit back and enjoy a cigar together.
There you go. That's right.
Nice.
But along those lines, I will now turn it over to you now that I've pumped you up. You're hype man.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it. I'll probably end up saying something at the end of the month, but I wanted to say, I would just echo that it's been, a good experience, an interesting experience. I've learned a lot and worked with a number of different boards, compositions, and I think this board right now is working very well, and I'm happy to see that. So, we will get fresh blood, hopefully, in December 2nd at the reorg meeting, and there'll be a third Larry.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be.
That's gonna be a new requirement.
We're
Your name
gonna
has
need
to
to, we're
be
gonna need to
Larry.
figure something out.
I'm starting to feel very outnumbered.
Yeah, we're gonna,
Yeah, right.
I think the mayor will just have to, like, the first thing we'll do is appoint nicknames for everyone. They always seem like nicknames never feel kind though, right?
Well, they don't have to be Trump nicknames. They can actually
That's
be-
true, yeah, that's a good point.
So trustee liaison reports, you know, the only thing that I've really been focused on in the last month or so is trying to get a tree code update done, and we've done a major edit and looking at revisions at this point, and so that's an ongoing process that should hopefully have something in a draft form by the time I walk out the door. And someone else will take that over. And, you know, that's about it. I think that the tree commission has a few comments that have come up that aren't really code related, but are kind of process and recommendations for the village and recommendations that could be applied to the planning board, et cetera, et cetera. So that will get together. Probably not in time for this work session, but maybe in the next couple work sessions, you know, Alan will reach out to you and try to discuss what those recommendations are.
Sure.
Some are pretty obvious, some are not, but one of the ones that I think is interesting is for the village to have a policy about tree canopy, maintaining it rather than letting it slowly dissolve away, you know, tree by tree. So it's an interesting thing, and it really has a lot to do with both sustainability and mitigation aspects. So we'll see. I'll be looking forward. I'll be probably zooming in to see those conversations as they occur.
Larry one?
Just a couple of quick notes from Joe at Rec. Irvington Recreation is running a fall teenscape trip to the ropes course at Boundless Adventures on Election Day, co-sponsored by IASC. The trip will be run by Teenscape co-directors Angela Thornton and Mike Donardo. The trip is filled with a maximum of 42 participants. It was offered to current 6th through 9th grade students and is a screen-free, stress-reducing activity. Oh, screen-free, get it. A special thanks to Maureen DePauli for all the fall special events, which Brian had outlined earlier. The PBA will sponsor a breakfast for the seniors next Tuesday at 8 a.m. in the Senior Center. We're looking for anyone who knows of a senior or a family in need. We will hand deliver a meal and goodies to them at lunchtime on Thanksgiving Day. And don't forget to sign up for the Peter Oley Turkey Trot, Sunday, November 20th. Registration's ongoing.
Mitch?
The theater had a sold out. I didn't get any report afterwards, I just realized that, but I know that the event was sold out at the library. Two of my liaison responsibilities combining, which was a great idea to make use of the library space, you know, while the theater is down. So they had a play reading of a play called Statewide Self-Storage. It was directed by our own Greg Allen, and it was sold out. So that was a really good thing. So the library's meeting tonight, so I'll hopefully hear something after about what happened there. But yeah, that's all I have.
I just have a report from DPW. Lots of, I'm not gonna read them, but there are lots of road repair and working with the tree commission, but I think we're coming up on their busy season.
Sounds like it.
Oh, I guess we should say Loveland Labor, right? That's an important announcement to make. Now it's leaf season. Try to, there's a lot of information through the Green Policy Task Force on the village website about leaf mulching and things you can do with your leaves besides put them in bags and throw them on the street, on the curbside for pickup. So the village has been doing that for now, I don't know how long, quite a while. And I think it's important to remind people because, you know, every couple of years, people start to forget about the possibilities.
Yep.
Agreed. And a lot of, by the way, a lot of landscapers now are doing leaf mulching just on their own for the clients because they find it's faster than raking, blowing, and bagging.
Makes sense. Village administrator's report?
So last week I had an opportunity to meet with the Rivertowns Chamber of Commerce in a virtual meeting. It was very enlightening. I enjoyed participating in it. I gave them a nice update of some of the many projects that are going on and upcoming. And so I even had a business contact out of that meeting that relates to our firehouse expansion project. So I met with that person today. They are, they had their Taste of Rivertowns event over the weekend. I didn't get a report
I
on
heard it
it.
was actually sold out.
Good,
And
yeah,
people I know that went, so they had a blast.
nice,
And they said the trolleys were full.
great. And we have, and in that same light, we have they have the trolley that's scheduled, their holiday trolley, which is on December 10th. It's on the same day as our tree lighting, which we are certain will be in front of Town Hall with no scaffolding on the building. But the trolley ends at 5 o'clock, and that's around when the tree lighting is. So I'm not sure that you'd effectively be able to use it to bring people in from outside, on the trolley. But anyway, it's a nice event, and they seem pretty enthusiastic. So I think we can play a role in seeing them thrive here in the village. The chamber itself, I think the village government can get behind what they're trying to do in terms of organizing businesses in here in Irvington and in the Rivertowns. So it's a good meeting. That's it.
And I guess I mentioned briefly that I was at the Apollo meeting and I couldn't go to the Halloween parade, but just to share, their biggest concerns were the Ardsley-on-Hudson train station and getting that maintained. I guess, it just continues to deteriorate, and the current leaseholder isn't really making any investment in it. So they're looking to create a Friends of the Ardsley-on-Hudson railroad station. And I'd say deer was their other big issue. There's deer, and they were talking about the cull and that kind of thing. So potential cull. There's not going to be a cull, but those were probably the two biggest issues that they had. And then the solar panels. That was probably the third one at Columbia, the proposed solar panels. But yeah, I forgot to mention that. Village Clerk Treasurer's report.
I want to take this opportunity to officially welcome Katie Budnick to her first board meeting tonight
Welcome.
and introduce her as well to the public, and as she will be the next clerk treasurer here at the Village of Irvington, effective early December at the next organizational meeting. And we're thrilled to have her join the village. She's going to be she is a tremendous asset to the village, and I think we're having a wonderful transition period, and I'm very happy it's going smoothly, and as well as Katie. And thank the board actually for the opportunity to have the month overlap, because it really is proving to be beneficial.
And, it was like the same as, with my farewell to Mark. This is my last official meeting with you. Your assistance has been invaluable in all of the financial matters, not the least of which, of course, being the annual budgets. So again, big shoes to fill. I think that, the clarity of the presentation allowed us to focus on the meat rather than, having to worry about figuring out what everything means. I was always very plain and simply prepared. The governmental accounting standards sometimes are confusing, just some of the terms. You've always gone above and beyond, especially with, say, new trustees and things, to sit down with them and explain some of the terminology and the different accounts that we have and how they interact or don't. And I just wanted to thank you and wish you all the best. In your retirement. It's been nothing but a pleasure to work together, and us accounting nerds like to stick together. So, but it's been really a pleasure working with you.
I've likewise enjoyed the entire experience of working in municipalities, and especially here in Irvington. I'm going to say that's the highlight of my professional life. I really enjoyed the time, I have to say. And thank everyone for it's been just a great experience, and I'll miss everyone.
And the butterflies.
And the butterflies.
Well, you'll be here next meeting. So.
I will be at the next meeting.
Village Attorney's report. Public comments. Review of action items.
There's
It's really kind of an action item. from early in the,
It was well, certainly bringing the discussion of a traffic study to a work session is really it. So there's a few steps that have to happen before that happens, but that was the main thing I saw.
Okay. And I will make a motion to adjourn if I can have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Mark. Just give me a second.
Next meeting, we're gonna make Mark second every.
you're gonna do what?
We make you second everything that has to be seconded at the last meeting.
Right.
Well, it was funny, when I was on the board, like, the mayor usually made any motions, so we always have to ask, can I have a motion? And so to me, it was just like a waste of time. So I'm like, I'll make a motion.
I think that's fine.
Right, I think so.